the cloud. There we go. That's the announcement in my alternate voice. The other thing we will do then is just so you see that you keep yourself muted to let us all hear Judy and not hear any other kinds of ambient noises. And I'm also going to ask people to use the chat box. Most of you should have the chat box down at the bottom center of your Zoom screen. If you put questions in there, what we will do is at the end be able to moderate the questions, and Judy and I will do our best to answer as many questions as are posed. For those that perhaps we can't answer right away, we'll certainly try to get back to people after the program and offline. So with that, welcome. Hope everybody survived the thunderstorms that went through here, and we certainly hope the Peregrines are thriving in in Manayunk. So Judy, take it away.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lee. This is my talk about a new species, Falco Peregrinus manayuncus. What you're seeing here is the steeple of the Church of St. John the Baptist in Manayunk. And I'll explain more about all this in a little bit. Right here is the nest box with the female inside the nest box, the openings to the nest box, and there's the male sitting on top. Okay, excuse me. Okay. And wait a minute. Oops, excuse me. I'm just having a little problem. Okay, that's better. In the beginning, February 17th, 2011. Now, this doesn't look like February, but February was when it happened. And this is the Green Lane Bridge, for those of you that may know it, over the Schuylkill River in Manayunk. And I was walking across that bridge, actually with another member of Wingcoat Audubon, Barb Thorpe. And for the first time I saw coming the other way, another birder. And this is somebody that some of you may know, but it turned out to be Greg Gorton of DVOC. And excuse me. Okay, thank you. Anyway, so we talked, and while we were talking, he spotted a peregrine falcon on the nearby railroad bridge. Okay, this is the railroad bridge. Some of you may be familiar with this. It's about 100 yards down from the Green Lane Bridge. And the railroad, this used to be a railroad track, but since that time, it's now been converted and there's a trail. It's part of the Kinwood Trail system. But what we saw is a peregrine sitting up on one of these, one of those posts up there on the bridge. So after that, this is the bridge now. And you can walk right across it and get a great view of the peregrines from there. After that, what happened is there started being reports of peregrines being seen around Manayunk. This is a picture I actually saw. This is two of the young ones on the side of the steeple after they fledged. I actually saw some young ones on the steeple. And then what we found is some evidence. Art McMorris, the Pennsylvania Game Commission Peregrine Falcon coordinator, went looking around St. John the Baptist, and he found evidence of peregrines. This is actually from a racing pigeon. You'll find wings, feathers, heads, and other body parts as well. And what Art saw on the trestle over the railroad bridge was a young female peregrine, and this was in July 2011. This is a picture of St. John the Baptist Church. And right here, what you can see is what the peregrines have occupied is the penthouse suite. This is a picture from up above. And I don't know if you can see it there, but the Schuylkill Expressway is in the distance, like way over here. This is from, as you know, Manayunk is real hilly, but this is from a hill above the steeple, looking at it. Here's a picture from across the river. This is actually from the Kinwood Trail, and you can see into the nest box right here. If you got your scope, you can get a great look. And it's also a good place to look to see the peregrines right now. Okay, this is a picture of the male peregrine looking into the nest box. And so what they picked here is a penthouse suite. They've got a room with a view and a great view of their surroundings. Nice places to perch. Here's this, I believe, is the female, and here's the male perched on the side of the steeple. This is a picture of the male. This is where he perched at nighttime on the side of the steeple. They have nice landlords. This is the rectory of St. John the Baptist, and some easy pickings. Right next to the church, this is a pigeon roost, and there's also some very close by under the train tracks on Crescent Street, very close to the church. And that's one of their favorite foods. The female is called the Falcon. And here she's on one of the finials on the side of the steeple. She was born in, fledged, hatched in Elizabeth, New Jersey in 2008. And this is on the roof of the Union County Courthouse. And they actually have a peregrine cam. You can go take a look at this and see the peregrine cam of their current nest. So that's where she came from. She was banded on May 30th. Her parents, the female was from Jersey City, and the male, we're not sure which one, but either he was from Connecticut or an unbanded male. And here's a picture of the male, and he's called the Tearsell. He actually is a local guy from the Girard Point Bridge. This is a picture taken much later of the nest box, and you can see there's a little peregrine inside there. So that's where he came from. Oops, let me see. Yeah, he was banded there May 14th in 2009. So 2011, when we first saw them, that would have been his first year that he was able to mate. The female had hatched in 2008, so this would have been her second year. But somehow or other, they found each other and ended up in Manayunk. This is a timetable of peregrine falcon nesting activities. Somewhere between February and mid-March, they return. Now, actually, what I found in Manayunk is they return much earlier. I started seeing them in December and particularly in January, but so they return to the nest site, they renew their bond, they start displaying, they defend their territory. And I've seen this happen quite a number of times where, well, first of all, when they're nesting, they can have something like a red tail will fly by, or even a turkey vulture, and they'll go after it when it's close to the nesting site. There will also be other peregrines coming in and trying to get in on the action, and they'll defend it against the new peregrines. They present gifts or prey to the male will present gifts to the female, and I believe it probably happens both ways. I'm not sure about that. And then you have copulation. And they do mate more than once, maybe, I don't know, 10 or so times, but quite frequently they do mate more than once. In mid-March to mid-April, the female will start laying the eggs, and she incubates them for about 30 days. And what I've done is keep track of when I see them. Sometime in March, I don't see the female anymore. And that's the date that we remember, because 30 days from then, we'll start looking for her to come back out from the nest box. The male will do hunting during that time. And they have something that's called a nest exchange. And I have a picture of this later on. But he hunts, he brings the prey. Well, the prey I didn't mention, but they eat other birds, basically, is what they eat. And as I said, there's plenty of pigeons, one of their favorite foods, right nearby. So he'll do the hunting. And what he'll do is he'll put the prey in a, they don't want to give away the location of the nest. So he'll put the prey at some location, some place right nearby. And he'll come in and take over, and the female comes out and she'll eat, and she'll just hang out for a while. Usually when I've seen her, she spends like maybe at least an hour outside, maybe a couple times a day, and she'll do preening and things like that. So this is called the nest exchange. So he'll go in and he'll incubate the eggs while the female is outside of the nest. So somewhere between mid-April and late May, I think it's about 6 weeks after the eggs have been laid, that they hatch. And during that time also, the male brings food to the female, and you'll also see nest exchanges. What we've, in the past, Art McMorris from the Game Commission has done banding, and they generally fledge when they're about, well, I guess my timing is off, about 45 days old is about when they fledge. Late June to early July, first the parents leave, and then the young go one by one. And that's the saddest day, when there's just one young left. What I've seen in Manayunk, they leave close to the end of June. The parents leave, and then one by one, the fledglings will leave. It's usually by July 4th. That may be, if they haven't left already, July 4th is about the last date when I'll see them there. And in Pennsylvania, in most of the sites, one adult remains at the nest site through the winter. And what I found here is that I generally start seeing both of them in December. And especially in January, they just start hanging right around the nest site. There have been reports, we have seen them elsewhere in the area at other times, but as I said, they don't migrate, so they do stay around. This is in 2012, the first year they're banding. The young are called Iases, and this is, there was one male and one female, and this little nestling was estimated to be 23 to 25 days old. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll skip the next slide. 2013, there were 2 females and 2 males. They were about 15 days old when they were banded. Here's something you can see. This is one of their favorite, actually the crucifix was repaired since this photo, but this is one of the places where they like to perch and eat, at the base of the crucifix. And what you can see there is a crowd of flies and the feathers flying off. And sometimes I've been there, and it's really, the female, well, the parents will be up there eating, and the parishioner, I've seen, was there one day, and the parishioner started coming out of church, and these feathers are flying down from the peregrine above. Okay, here's a picture of the, let me see who this is. This is the, oh, this is actually a young one. This is one of the young ones. I have better pictures, but they're brownish. They're white and brown underneath. Their eyes, around the eyes, it's like a silver color, gray color, and they have a gray beak, which is different than the adults. Adults have yellow around the eyes and a and excuse me, and like I said, white and yellow beak, I believe. Okay, here's the young one. What you can see is he's got a full crop right there. You can see the brown on the side of his face, unlike the adults that have black and white. These are some of the leftovers from when the parents are plucking the young. This is, here's a picture in the evening. Here's one adult. That might be another adult right there, but this is what, for most of the years that the young have done, they sleep up here after they fledge. They'll sleep right up here on the side of the steeple. And actually both parents, what they do is actually the female stays inside the nest box until they've all hatched. Once they've hatched, both the female and the male spend the night on the side of the steeple. This is, actually I may be wrong, that might be the male, but he was spending his nights on the side of the steeple where one of these Celtic crosses is, and the female was spending her night on another one of the Celtic crosses. Okay, this is some of the offspring from St. John the Baptist. This is in June 2015, a male from that was fledged in 2013. He started nesting in Lancaster County on the Route 461 bridge over the Susquehanna, and there were two females. And let me see, two females. Actually, wait a minute. Let me go back. Oops. Okay. Oh, I guess I missed a couple. Whoops. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, this is 2015. Another 2013 bird, a female, began nesting in Baltimore, and this is an email that Art McMorris got. And let me read it. Thank you, Art. We know the Philadelphia Eagles are a tough bunch to play against, and so are the Falcons produced in the city of brotherly love. She arrived earlier this year to the city of Baltimore and injured and displaced our resident female just weeks ago, right about the time she was about to lay eggs. She is currently laying eggs of her own at a man-made scrape that has been in use since 1979. She has laid 3 eggs so far and can be seen on their Peregrine Falcon webcam, and that's on the Chesapeake Conservancy, and the location is the 33rd floor of the Trans-America building in Baltimore. Okay, this is 2014. There were actually 2 males and 3 females, although this picture only shows, that's the female on the left, about 35 days old, the others about 30 days old. Okay, this is, I believe, the female, actually one of the parents is, the parent is coming here with food, and there's the young one follows the parent. There's another young one up here. Okay, also from 2014, there's a female nesting in New Jersey, and okay, wait, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused up here. Okay, there was a female nesting in an old quarry in West Orange, New Jersey. She paired with a male from 2013 nest on the PA New Jersey Turnpike Bridge. So, okay, I'm sorry. So that was a 2014 female from Manayunk, and then she's nesting there with a 2013 male from the Pennsylvania New Jersey Turnpike Bridge, and they had 3 young. Here's a picture of the mom at the door to the nest box, and this is May 2015. And what I'll see when all the young ones hatch, I'll see the female right there at the opening, and she'll spend a lot of time looking around, but she'll also be looking back. This is on May 19th, 2015. There are 2 males and 2 females, estimated about 23 to 25 days old. Now, one of the things you want to take a look at right here is this is inside the church steeple. At that point, what happened with the steeple, it was originally, pigeons had gotten in there. It was originally a pigeon roost. And then the falcons came in and obviously, the pigeons left, but it was all full of dirt and debris and all kinds of stuff. But that's where they nested on the floor inside the steeple. And this is when Art was doing the banding, and here's Mom coming and looking in. This is a little bit later that month. This is 2 fledglings up on the steeple. And here's in July, this is one of the females from St. John the Baptist somebody saw it at Fort Washington State Park and took a picture. And this bird is alive and well. Okay, now what happened, let me go back a little bit. Here's the opening. The steeple had 4 openings, 1 on each side. And initially, that was really great for watching the peregrines because they'd come in one side, go out the other side. And it was great for the fledglings too. They had the floor down below, and they were able to hop up from the floor up to the opening. So they had a lot of practice just flapping around right inside here. But what happened was there was a lot of damage to the steeple, and the church had a big fundraising campaign, and they collected quite a bit of money to repair the stonework on the steeple. So this is the view from up top there. Where the nest site is. Here's the train tracks right next to it. That's a Norristown line. This is Pretzel Park over here. And what happened then was a nest box was put in. And after that, they put, I think that's a wooden floor after it was cleaned up. They did have to bring, a special crew in to clean everything up in there. That white there, you can see that's whitewash from the peregrines. And what they did is they closed off 3 of the windows, and this one they closed off the top of it, and it was just open to the nest box. This is the opening on the side of the church facing Crescent Street, facing the railroad tracks, facing the Schuylkill River. And this is the side, actually, I believe this is west side. This is the east right here. This is the side that gets the most sunshine. And this is what we found they most frequently use. That's where we saw the female coming out when she came out. So what happened was, on March 2nd, the first day, the scaffolding was lowered 15 feet below the nest box. They went right in, and on, this is on March 4th, where both the male and the female were seen in the box and on the steeple. Okay, this is 2016. Here's when Mom appears again at the opening in front of the nest box. There's another picture. And there were 2 females and 1 male. Okay, this is one of the fledglings, what they look like when they start showing up. You'll see they'll have all this down, and they'll start flapping, and the down will start flying. Here's a picture of them flapping. Now this is a little bit later. This is Mom bringing dinner. And this is a fledgling. Somebody has already fledged, and he's up on top. And so Mom brings dinner to him. and then he starts chowing down. This is the male, and another picture, and a picture of mom. Now this is the male showing up on a trash can. Unfortunately, what happened before they did the work and closed off the steeple with only one opening, we had no problems. All the fledglings made it. Since then, however, have been problems. In this case, the peregrine sitting on a trash can. We found them on top of cars. They've come out and landed in the street. And some of the times they haven't really been ready to fly yet. So quite a number of times we've taken them to rehab, actually to the Schuylkill Center rehab. And they'll check them out and evaluate them. And in some cases, they've had to keep them for a week or two until the wings get strong enough that they can be let go. And they're brought back and released right there at the church. This is one of the fledglings on the side of the steeple in the evening. And this is a female. And what she's doing is she's flapping her wings. She's trying to climb up the side here. She hasn't been able to fly yet. Here she is squawking. They do a lot of squawking when they're young. They're always squawking at their parents for food usually. But so she finally makes it and she's still squawking. Okay, this is something we've done. We haven't done this year or last year, but with the DVOC, we've had pizza and peregrines. There's a little pizza and a little restaurant there on the corner of, this is Station Street. And right from there, you get great view. So we were out there with you may recognize some of these people. That's Tony Crosdale, Rob Beauregard. And, we set up our scopes and watch the peregrines. Usually, they fledged by then. And so it's been a great night. But so hopefully next year we'll continue this tradition. This is 2017 when mom appeared back at the first day I saw her back at the opening. And I joined the crew that year in the banding. So this is our way up the steeple. This is Mike Wallbacker from the Schuylkill Center right here. We're passing the bell and the clock. This is the back of the clock. And this is the bell. It has a huge bell and they're really pretty deafening. Here we are going up. This is looking out at their louvers on the side. And over here, you can see this is the Schuylkill Expressway over there. And the final part, which I really didn't like, being as I'm scared of heights, but you have to climb up this big ladder up to the top. The height, I think it's about 150 feet. Okay, and this is what we had in 2017, one female, the larger one, and two males right here that were banded. This is Art down there on the right, and he's holding, let me see if I can make that a little bigger. He's holding one of them. They put them in bags, little bags, so they, to keep them quiet. And here's a female. And this one was really, really like squawking and everything. So you see what he did. This is a falconer's helmet. So he put this on her so we could band her. This is a male. And he does a thorough exam and he checks them for lice and takes a blood sample. And if they do have lice, he treats them for it. This is mom on the outside a little bit later on that day. And this is dad. Here's one of the good things about banding is, you can tell whether it's a male or female, which one it is. They all have different, he puts different color bands on their legs, but you can see all the whitewash also below the opening there. Here's two of them looking out. And here's one of them flapping and flapping. This is a female. And this was, a female was found on the ground. Actually, she was in the street and on the sidewalk. And Art went to the rescue. He took her to rehab. I think she was okay. She may have just stayed a day or two, and then he released her on one of the roofs of the rectory. Okay, this is as I said, they're always squawking and squawking, making a lot of noise. There's mom, and then there's the young one. Here's one of the things they do when they're young, the fledglings, they lay on their bellies. They just lay out. You never see the parents doing this. The parents are always perched, but this is one of the things the young ones do. And I imagine they're not used to, their feet aren't strong enough. They're not used to standing, but they like to lay out. Here's another one. This is the trestle over the railroad tracks. And they also like to kind of fool around with one another. Here's one coming up on the tracks. A second one comes up. This one flies off. Okay, the female pushes off the male. The females are the larger ones. Okay, then it comes back again. The male comes back. Oh, and look at this. When mom flies by, of course, both of them, that's where their attention goes. They start, fooling around with one another. And again, they're squawking at mom flying by. But then it starts to get a little dangerous, and the male flies off, and so the female that's her spot. Here's two of them in the air. Actually, it looks like the female on the right and a male on the left. And here's another picture of both of them. This is mom coming in for a landing. And what I like about this is look at the landing gear. It's like almost like an airplane. The landing gear is spread out. And another picture as she is about to hop on. This is a picture of one of the young ones, I believe, stealing food from another young one. This is in June, the end of June, and there's only two left. Okay, this is 2018. That's the male on the left. Actually, that's the female on the right. Okay, or actually, no, maybe it's still the male in both of those. One difference you can tell, the males kind of have flatter foreheads. They're smaller, but also the females have a much wider chest area. And as long as being bigger, they have a wider chest. And their heads, they're not quite as flat as the males. Okay, here's the male in February 2018. And this is the female. Here she is already in the nest box, or at the opening to the nest box. I did mention their beaks. They have yellow around the eyes and yellow at the base of the beaks, unlike the young ones where that is gray colored. Now this is in February 2018. And this photo actually was taken by Katrina Rakowski. Some of you may know her, but through my scope with a phone, but it only lasts a brief period of time, and then Dad takes off. Here's another event, and I said they do it more than once. I shouldn't say that, I should say they mate more than once. This is April 22nd, 2018, when mom comes out of the nest opening. And here you can see what a broad chest she has. And this is on May 7th, little puffballs. Here's some, there were 4, Only one was banded. The one that was inside the box. These three felt that it was too dangerous. They were liable to fall backwards and try to escape. So he didn't band the three of those. Okay, this is home delivery of a meal. Is taking the meal inside the nest box. And this is a picture. Oh, let me see. This is I believe, yeah, this is two young ones. One had already started flying or even just hopping around. Two young ones at the opening to the nest box. Here's three of them at the opening. And oftentimes, like you said, when you see little heads or little tail peeking out. Here's another photo. And here's mom flying by. And of course that gets their attention. You know, these two were like laying down there, but once mom flies by, now they're up and watching. Here's three of them on another occasion. And here's two, and you see the one little beak right there. And this is one of the young ones flapping, trying out his wings again while another one looks on. First, what they do is they start walking around the ledge there, and then they start to take some little hops. And so here's a picture of just taking little hops and walking around. This is a female outside of who had fledged. And this is bedtime, how they sleep. Okay, this is another young one that's actually perched rather than on his stomach. Oh, this one, this is the fledgling. Here's mom on top with some food, right? So he's wandering around there and he's having a tough time. So mom goes and flies, excuse me, flies off to the other side of it. This is the electric trestle above the train tracks. She flies off to the other side and the young one starts coming over, but look at this. As he's coming over there, another one already came in and he doesn't get it. The other one gets it. And now there's three of them right there trying to, get their little piece. Oh, so what happens is at first what the parents do is the first thing they do is they take the head off and then they pluck the bird that they've caught. But at some point, here's June 1st, they start bringing the bird, they'll take the head off, but it's not plucked. Okay, this is that same date. Here's mom with some leftovers and the young one squawking. Two of them come in and they start fighting, and look at the bottom here. Excuse me, they drop it right there. You can see it dropping. And what happens is mom takes off and comes to the rescue. She catches it and brings it back up to them. And here's mom and one of them eating and protecting his prey, his food from the other peregrine. This is dad on the left, and this is in 2019. This is dad on left. This is mom having a meal here on the right. This is the female, May 1st in the nest box opening. Here's three little guys that haven't fledged yet. They're ready and about to fledge and take off. Okay, this is a little bit later. There's mom with a bird, and the young one tries to actually, he's trying to get it here, but mom takes off and he ends up with nothing, or maybe just a little tiny bit. Now what happened, actually, wait a second. No, I'm sorry, this is the wrong date. I'm sorry, this is a mistake here. So this is 2019. What happened, unfortunately, in September of 2019, I got a phone call and from Art, and what happened is they had found a peregrine, the male peregrine, dead. His foot had been chopped off and it was severed. It was severed like cleanly. We suspect that it may have been a drone. This probably wasn't, this was the cause of him losing his leg. We don't think it was the cause of his death, but we do, because it was so cleanly chopped off, that's what we think of caused it. And unfortunately, I have seen drones around the church, even though they're really not allowed to fly there. First of all, they shouldn't be flying there because it's right next to the, it's too close to the infrastructure, the electricity of the railroad tracks. It's also private property of the church. But also, according to the Game Commission, it's a violation because they're flying it around in the area of a nest of an endangered species. And I'll talk about that more in a minute, but anyway, so what happened, this should read December 25th, actually December 23rd, 2019, that was September. What happened in December is usually I would see the male in December at the church, and then the female would start showing up in January. But this year it was different. Mom was out there every day on the church steeple advertising for mates. On December 23rd, a new male showed up, and here you can see his leg, it's not banded. So we have no idea where he's from, but he's the new male. And the greatest thing of all, though, December 25th, is I saw him for the first time on the 23rd. On the 25th, I saw both the male and female on the steeple. Okay, so this is, okay, I'm sorry. I had some problems with my PowerPoint here, but I had a couple different versions. Unfortunately, I missed a season there, but anyway, in 2020, they had 4 young ones. This is 2021, and this is what's called a nest exchange. This is on March 20th. What happened is, this is the male coming out. The female was outside of the nest box. She was on the steeple preening. She flew around a little bit, and then she went to the opening of the nest box and she started squawking and squawked and squawked. And then the male came out and flies right over her and heads out, and then she goes in. That's what happens in a nest exchange. This is on May 19th. There's two little heads popping out. And let me see, okay, that's the end of it. But let me just explain a few more things that I hadn't mentioned. Right now, we did see, actually this year, we saw 4 young ones. Right now, 2 have fledged and are out flying around, starting to fly around. They really just fledged about a little bit over a week ago. 2 of them fledged. Yeah, I think it was actually last Thursday that the first one fledged. So there's 2 of them out now, and we're not quite sure what's going on with the other 2. We haven't seen them in a while, and hopefully everything's okay. But I have seen the parents going in and out of the nest box with food, so I'm hoping that the other 2 will show up soon. A couple more things I did want to mention, that in Pennsylvania, the peregrines are considered an endangered species. I know most people know about what happened with DDT in the 50s. It wiped out the native peregrines in the eastern part of the US. Thanks to one of the ornithologists, I believe it was from Cornell, who started the Peregrine Project. And he started raising some peregrines and then they're taking them out into the, into the wild. And I think at first they didn't have success, but eventually they did get some success, and they were getting, they started getting breeding peregrines in the wild again. Now, what's happened though is why in the eastern US, well, they always kept breeding in the wild in the West, but in the eastern US, they started breeding I know what happened. See, when the peregrines were here before, one of their big predators is great horned owls, especially for the nest sites. And they kept the great horned owls out before. They weren't in the areas where the peregrines were. But now, since the peregrines were gone, the great horned owls took over all these natural areas. And it's a threat to the peregrines. So far, they have begun reestablishing themselves on cliff sites. I believe there's 2 sites in Pennsylvania, cliff sites where the peregrines are nesting. Most of the other sites are on buildings, either buildings, rooftops, bridges. They're nesting on bridges, but man-made structures. One of the problems with man-made structures is in the wild, they nest on ledges. They don't make a nest. They just find like a little scrape, bare rock, and they just nest there. And what happens is in the wild, they pick a spot where there may be ledges below. So if the peregrine goes to take its first flight, if it misses, it'll end up like on a ledge, maybe 10 foot below, and it'll be okay. But from natural structures, there's real problems. They'll end up like on the street in traffic, which has happened, I know, in Philadelphia from city, we have them nesting in City Hall. They're on bridge sites, they've ended up in the river. There are some sites, I think in the Susquehanna in Pennsylvania, there is a site where people are out in boats waiting for the peregrines when they start to fledge to rescue them. Harrisburg, they're nesting on the Rachel Carson building, which houses the DCNR, I believe. And they have a peregrine watch there. They have at least 2 people there. And what happens when these peregrines come out, they'll end up like in the street, they'll end up on a car, in traffic, on another building. So they have a rescue team there where they have 2 people all the time, and one will stay there and one will go looking for it. They'll in radio communication, they'll go find and rescue the peregrine. We've had problems here since they closed off the other sides of the steeple. We've had problems. We've lost at least 1 or 2 every year. And last year I did set up a peregrine watch. I did have a couple people helping me. This year I've got 1 or 2 people helping me out. We don't have a full-fledged watch all the time, but there are a couple other people that are helping me. So actually, if anybody's interested, I could use your help this year and in the future watching these peregrines. Last year, I know we had one that ended up on top of somebody's car, and this construction guy knew a birder, and he called the birder, and the birder came and put it in a box and took it to rehab. That's what we've had to do. I was there one time on a Sunday morning watching them outside the church, and the peregrine and mass had just ended, and the peregrine was down on the sidewalk. And that was one of the ones that was taken back to rehab. Unfortunately, sometimes when they've been released, they haven't made it back to the nest. And also sometimes when they fledge last year, one of them just took off for the first time and just kept going towards the river. And there were two of us and we looked and we couldn't find it. Sometimes they've ended up there's a cemetery next to the church and they've ended up there, but for some reason they weren't found by their parents. So that's the state of things now. They're still, as I said, they're considered endangered in Pennsylvania because they're not on they haven't returned fully to their natural nest sites. We're excited that I think there's 2 in Pennsylvania, but the number of peregrines is spreading. I think there may be like 7 different nests in the city. There's one they found one at Penn right now. There's one at 2400 Chestnut Street. There's a City Hall pair. There's a pair on I believe there's a pair on the Ben Franklin Bridge and a pair on the Girard Point Bridge. So they're doing pretty good in the city. But as I said, with the man-made structures, there's problems. So they're not as well off as if they are in the wild. They eat other birds, so they're not really susceptible to some of the problems that other birds of prey are, such as, red tails. When they eat mice, and they might find a mice that's been poisoned. But so they're there, they're recovering, they're expanding, and they're great fun to watch. Now's the time to watch them. As I said, 2 of them are out of the steeple, and they've just really started flying around. Like today, I saw one of them flying around for a good period of time. They squawk a lot. They're really, really loud, and they squawk, ferociously for the parents. So now what happens, another thing I forgot to mention, when they're young, the fledglings come out and the parents feed them. Eventually though, as I said, first they take the head off, then they, pluck all the feathers, and then they give them, first when they're real tiny, they just, the mother plucks meat and gives it to them. After that, however, eventually they get to the point where they just give the peregrine, the fledgling, the bird after it's been plucked. Then they go to the step where they give it to them when it hasn't been plucked. Then what happens is, what's happening now is you'll see the parents will fly around the nest site. And that's when some of the young ones will start to that's actually what I've seen in the past couple of days. The fledglings, one will be on the side of the steeple, and the parent will fly by it, and then it will get up and fly after it. They're just starting to do that right now. Eventually, though, what happens is the parents one of the parents will have a bird, and it will be flying with the bird, and then it will drop it, and the other peregrine will catch it. So they'll be doing this in front of the fledglings. So eventually they get to the point where they drop it to the fledglings, and quite frequently, especially in the beginning, that ends up on the sidewalk. I've seen a number of them with headless birds, but eventually they get the hang of it. And then when it gets towards the end of June, or I guess probably about maybe mid-June, a little bit after that, the 3rd week of June, the parents will stop feeding the young ones. And then, so at that point, they'll be on their own. And a few days after that, a little while after that, towards the end of June, the parents leave. And that's when it's so sad. And then you'll have maybe 4 or 3 fledglings left, and maybe 1 or 2 will leave. And eventually, as I said, you end up with one little one left until next year. So I believe I've covered everything. So I'll turn it back over to Kevin.
Yeah, I'm going to take over for Kevin, Judy.
Okay.
Kevin has some duties with his young daughter, so he asked me to step in. And first of all, Judy, we know this has been a labor of love for you. You've been watching these peregrines not far from your home, and having this kind of a track record, and what you've been able to share has been a gift, I know, for a lot of groups that you've given this presentation to. I do know that there's a number of questions in the chat box, and I thought if we have some time, we can try to respond to some of the questions. I know there was, I'm looking early on, there was a question about how art gets up to the church steeple, and I think you addressed that in the program with great difficulty, steps and ladders.
Yes.
Or chutes and ladders, isn't that the game? But I don't know if there's
Yes.
anything else you want to add to that. Does Art do this every year?
Yes, he does. Well, except for this year and last year that he hasn't been doing banding, but yes, he does. He also goes up onto the bridges. With a few other people, he'll get a harness on and go down from the bridge down to the nest box on the bottom of the bridge. And he tries to get to, right now, I don't think he can get to all of them, but he tries to get to most of the places in the state where peregrines are nesting.
That is great. There was a question, do peregrines mate for life? Now, we know in your presentation, some of the mates were lost or died, but do they mate for life?
Yes, they do. And what happens is they mate for life, and until another peregrine comes in and kicks the old one out. Sometimes they'll fight, and actually I've seen, I didn't include them in any of my pictures, but I have seen a number of times the peregrines fighting off new rivals that have tried to come in. I saw one actually last year, tried to mate with the female, and she brushed him off. And then and actually, it's interesting what happened in that case. That was after the young had fledged. She brushed him off, and then she starts squawking and taking after him, and the male pops up from somewhere, like from a block away. And this is what they do when there's young in the nest, or when if they're fledglings, they'll stay very close. You might not see them, but they'll be within close distance. So she started squawking and following them. Then the male shot up and chased them off over the river. But what happens though, and in this case, I've seen them chase other birds off. I guess it's kind of sad, but usually what happens is they fight until either one is wounded so bad they can't continue or gives up, or one of them, they fight to the death often, where one will kill the other. And if they don't win the fight, they'll just kind of go off on their own. But yeah, so they mate till death.
Wow. That's that's a pretty interesting story. There was a question about the peregrines pulling out the feathers before eating, but you gave a nice sequence of that in your presentation, that adults do that before feeding the young when they're very young, but then they try to teach the young to do that. Is that kind of where they go?
Well, actually, what I've understood from an ornithologist is they don't actually teach in the sense that we think of teaching, but they do, obviously, they do that, and the young see it, and then I've seen them doing it in front of the young, and then they'll start doing it with the young underneath. Actually, one of the things that's happened, I just saw it happening now though, is when the parents go by, the young will follow them. They'll get up and start squawking and follow them. But yeah, that's how, I mean, in quotes, teach, but the parents will do that, and then they'll do it and the young will be underneath of them, and eventually they get the hang of catching it. And I think that's more or less, that also teaches them, that's good for them learning how to catch birds, that are flying along. So that gives them practice doing that as well.
Judy, I think this is the last open question. Maybe it's more of a comment, but it's interesting because, one of the things we've experienced since doing Zoom is that we get folks from all over the country, sometimes from other countries as well, that attend our meetings. And here is Kathy from Albuquerque talking about peregrines returning to the same tree snag near where she lives, and that she was able to photograph them. They would nest there November through February is what she was seeing. I don't know if they were nesting or staying there for the winter. But she asked that something happened to the tree, and I know that Kathy is on there. If you want to unmute Kathy, maybe it's easier for you to explain this. But they didn't come back, and so you don't know. She was wondering what happened to them. Did it not migrate? Did it relocate? I guess from your program, it's possible the peregrine relocated.
That's what I would think. Yeah, they just relocated. They didn't come back. The habitat wasn't the same. It's a shame. Like, if you see something like that, then that's the time to let them know, because I'm sure that whatever well, if you see peregrines roosting someplace, that's the time to let the people, the State Department know, so that particular roost site can be protected. But I would think, yeah, they moved on and found another spot.
Yeah, Kathy, I see you unmuted. Did I explain your question correctly?
I think so. What happened was this area along the river was disturbed by a fire several years before, which left a lot of snags, and it was populated then by a lot of raptors, the kestrels, the peregrine, the bald eagles, red-tailed, Swainson hawks. It was really a mecca for raptors for all those years while the disturbed area was kind of regenerating. And then the Open Space Division got some funding to restore that area back to its what quote unquote former glory, and took down all of the snags that these raptors had been returning to every year. But in terms of alerting people to the presence of the peregrine, we have a large birding group in this area, and whenever something like that is reported in our birding group, everybody rushes to that place to get their precious flight picture. That disturbs me a lot, because they don't just go and take a picture of the peregrine. They disturb it to force it to fly and to get that picture. So I've been very reluctant to report anything about something like a peregrine in this area ever because of that. And I'm not even sure that we have any kind of agency that would take on something like a peregrine in that area to attempt to protect it, shall we say.
Yeah, Kathy, it's probably a good practice that you don't advertise that if it's that sensitive. And in the same vein, I have another question, Judy.
Oh, I just want to add.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately that's a problem everywhere, and I know that on some of the chats I'm on here that people don't put things on eBird for that reason, and people keep locations quiet. But I mean, maybe they can suggest putting up something like, kind of like not snags, but just some kind of like a nest hole, or something like this with a perch on it, or just some perches. Maybe that might help to, attract some raptors back again.
Mhm.
Yeah. The other possibility, Kathy, is you can invite all of the Windcoat members that are on this call. Come down to New Mexico and check it out.
Yeah, you can help me find that precious peregrine. I miss her.
There we go. So thanks for your question. And there was a question here. I know that they keep the natural sites pretty secret. They don't really announce where the natural sites are. I know there's some sites in the western branch of the Susquehanna and some other places, but they don't generally announce those locations. There's a question here. Has there been any thought to relocating falcons that are on man-made structures to natural sites?
No, I think they've done that. They found they weren't actually. That's what they really tried to do in the beginning when they first reintroduced the peregrines. They put them on natural sites, but what they found is there's too much predation by the great horned owls, predation on the young ones, and it didn't work.
Okay, I don't think there are any other questions, and I do want to say a few things in closing. First, to thank Judy for the presentation, very entertaining, and again, it really is a labor of love for her. I'm glad that she shared that stories about these peregrines at St. John the Baptist Church with us. And the other is that we're looking to return to in-person programs beginning in September. Kevin Roth is putting together a really good list of programs for next year. We are going to be meeting at the Upper Dublin Public Library, which is a new site for us. And we are partnered with the library. They are providing us the site at no cost to the chapter as kind of a test of them being able to start using the site for outside groups. So it's kind of an exclusive arrangement to get started. We're really pleased with that, to be able to partner with them. And we'll be starting with our program September through May. And one of the questions I had, and I'm not quite sure whether you can use the reactions, but we started this program at 7, which is a half hour earlier than what our usual programming is. For those of you that are on the call, can you use, I think there's in the reactions, you can use a thumbs up. If you think starting at 7 is something our board should consider for next year, would you go down to that reactions button and hit the thumbs up? But only if you think that's a good idea. There's a few folks. There's some people clapping, but the majority are not reacting. Let's put it this way, I guess. I don't know how, there's not a thumbs down. But I'm assuming that if you didn't put a thumbs up or a hand clapping, you would prefer 7:30. So why don't you get rid of your, if there's a way to get rid of that, your thumb up. If you'd rather we stayed with 7:30, which is what has been traditional, would you put a thumbs up now for 7:30? Wow, and there's a lot of people that probably just don't care or can't find the reaction button. Well, good to know. That's helpful. It's something we'll be talking about as a board and be making some decisions about next year. But thank you again very much. We got to everybody's questions. We are looking forward to a summer where we're all vaccinated and able to go out of doors. We'll be starting up field trips again and starting our in-person programs. Again, I want to thank Judy and also want to thank Kevin Roth for putting together a great series of programs this year with Zoom and under these kind of adverse conditions. Looking forward to the in-person programs. And we may still try to salt in some Zoom programs. It's tough for somebody from New Mexico, for example, to attend one of our meetings if we're in the Upper Dublin Library, but some programs, the speaker may be in a distance away. We're thinking of some speakers that might live in Colorado who might present to us. We're thinking of some others. And the best way to do that, the most efficient way, would be via Zoom. So we might do a number of programs that way still, and we're looking forward to some options. But what we are really pleased is we're beyond the necessity of Zoom with the conclusion of this year's series of programs, and a great way to end the program year with Judy's talk. So thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.